they do not sponsor this video. It was more a custom job for a friend. And for those of you that don't know, Spoonflower is a sewing fabric design website where people can order custom fabric, or they can order fabric that other people have designed, or they can order plain fabric for their sewing projects. The fabric that I ordered was 2 yards. It's custom, and it was a seamless pattern that I had to create in Adobe Illustrator. So in my last video where I had said that everything that I do is sort of interrelated, I really meant that. So like with sewing, obviously to create the custom pattern, I had to do a seamless pattern, which most graphic designers should know how to do in Illustrator. But if you're not a graphic designer, maybe later on down the line I'll do a video blog about how to create a seamless pattern. And what I mean by seamless is that when the pattern is printed on the fabric, the one end of the pattern should line up with the other end of the pattern so that it looks, as it's called, seamless. So she liked the cake pattern, or cake stickers, that I had made a few weeks back. And these were the 3 cake stickers, which are available in my shop if you guys like it. The link is down below. She wanted that in a seamless pattern on a fabric, and she wanted me to create an apron out of it. And this is more of a gift to her because she always leaves baked goods, delicious baked goods, by our door. And I'm guilty of eating all of it in like one sitting. So she's a really, really good baker, and she's a really dear friend of mine. So this is no trouble at all. Like I really, really do want to create the apron for her. So the video will be about creating an apron out of fabric. I will list the materials you need below, or I'll let you know the materials you need below as well as the measurements and things like that. And that's what the video is essentially about. So if you want to learn how to create custom fabric on Spoonflower, I can teach that in a different video, but this one is just typically about the apron. So you can use whatever fabric you want. But the fabric that I got was from Spoonflower, and it costs around $50 for 2 yards, which is reasonable considering, you know, it's fabric that you created from scratch. So this is how it turned out. Very, very nice. And as you can see, there's the seamless pattern of cakes, endless dessert cakes. So yeah, we will get started on this, and I will list everything as we go. Template in Illustrator that you'll want to download before we start the project. It contains the measurements and the materials that we'll be using to complete this project, but I will be going over the materials right now. The first thing you're going to need is cotton or canvas fabric, pre-washed. And as a someone who's sewn for quite some time, you'll always want to pre-wash your fabric, just because if you're giving it as a gift, firstly, you want it to be clean. Secondly, if they wash it and it was already sewn and then it shrinks and doesn't fit them, it's kind of, you know, that kind of sucks. So pre-wash your fabric. And if you're creating a single-sided apron, which you can still do, you don't have to do the double-sided one. I just prefer to have the print on both sides so I can reverse my apron. You can do 1 apron body instead of 2 apron bodies from the instructions or pattern that I had created. So the other materials that we'll be using is the marking anything to mark your fabric with, which means marking chalk, marking markers, but they have to be one of those things where if you wash your fabric, it'll disappear. So don't use like a Sharpie or permanent marker or something like that, because then, you know, you've basically ruined your fabric. You'll want to use fabric scissors or a rotary cutter. I tend to use one or the other. I kind of like using the fabric scissors more just because I know that they cut through the fabric 100%. Sometimes with the rotary cutter, although you get a straighter cut with it, it doesn't always cut through the material completely. You'll want measuring tools, so whether that be a ruler, measuring tape, or a yardstick, whichever one you feel more comfortable with and whichever one you have on hand. You'll want a cutting board to protect your table with. My cutting board is kind of small, so you'll see me move around the cutting board as I'm going down and cutting. And then you'll want your sewing machine and a spool of thread that matches your fabric. So those are all the materials that you'll need to create this project. So we're gonna go over the apron body and the measurements for that. So if you look at your measurement sheet here, it says that the full size of the apron is 28 width by 35 height, and there's a centerfold line. So you'll notice that I have already folded my fabric in half, and that's the first step. So you take your fabric and you fold it in half, salvage to salvage, and by salvaging, what salvage means is basically that the fabric on the end is a lot tighter and it has this little texture end of use and markings. So you'll want to line those two up and fold your fabric in half. The half line here where it's folded is your center line, the center fold. And to cut out the apron body, you'll want to measure 35 height. So from here to here would be 35. And because you fold it in half, you want to divide 28 by 2, so that's 14 inches. So you want to measure from the center fold line width all the way to 14 inches. So we're going to do that. We're going to measure it, then we're going to draw it out, and then we're going to cut it. Now, if you have drafting paper, you can fully measure everything out from this document and cut the pattern out on your drafting paper and then reuse it over and over again. For this purpose, I don't really have drafting paper, so I'm going to directly apply my method to the fabric. Do the angled cut on the document. Now, from the top where the fabric end to end meet, you're going to want to measure with your ruler or whatever measuring tool you have all the way down 13 inches and take your chalk or marker and mark where the 13 is. Then from the centerfold line at the top here, you'll want to measure from the centerfold line to 6.5 inches. The reason it's 6.5 is the same reason that we have 28 in terms of the width. We want, because we have folded it, we have to divide it in half. So we're going to measure 6.5 because half of 13 is 6.5. So we take the ruler and we measure up to 6.5 inches and we mark there. Now where you've marked 6.5 and 13, you'll want to take the ruler and join diagonally the line. So you want to draw a line all the way across from the 6.5 line to the 13 line. That way you get a diagonal. And then we'll cut that out. And what we'll do is, once we've cut that out, that is our body piece. So we can go and take that fabric and lay this one over and basically cut out the same shape of this to get our second piece.
body pieces, we're going to start creating the head loop strap, the 2 waist straps, and the front pocket. And then we're just going to cut out those measurements. So the first one is the head loop, which is 30 inches wide by 5 inches high. And we're just going to cut that out. So I'm going to go and do that now. Straps. We're going to measure a 5-inch height and a 25-inch width. I'm going to go and do that. Pocket is 13 inches by 11 inches, and we will just cut that out. Once you're done, you should have 2 apron body pieces, 1 pocket, 2 waist straps, and 1 long head shoulder strap. Now, the pattern I had to change a little bit just because I didn't have enough fabric to do the bottom pocket, so we're going to do a front chest pocket instead. And I've revised the pattern over there, the printed pattern in the description, to do that. One of the errors that I made, and you can probably see it right off the bat, is the straps pattern is going in a vertical way instead of horizontal. To me, this doesn't really matter just because I'm going to be folding the straps and you're not really going to see it all that much. But to some people it matters to have the pattern going the same direction, in which case you'll want to utilize your fabric a little bit better than I did. But for this project, obviously, we are going to get started on the sewing now that all the pieces are cut out. So for the second portion of the project, you'll need clips or pins to pin your fabric or clip your fabric together when you're sewing. A seam ripper for those times that you make mistakes and you need to pull out the threading, and little snips to cut additional thread that you don't want seen, as well as the iron and ironing board back here. And let's get started on the second portion. So I'm going to start working on the pocket, which means you take the pocket piece that you have, and go over here, and we want to fold in the seams of the pocket. So what I mean is you take the seam or the edge of the fabric and you fold it in about 1/2 inch. You take your iron and you iron that so that you get a fold. And we're going to do that to all the edges of the pocket to clean up the seam. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sew about 1/4 inch into the pocket. So 1/4 inch into each seam here. We're going to sew the shape of the pocket. You don't have to go too close to the edge, just a little bit in, so about 1/4 inch. And we're going to go and take that to the sewing machine. So now that we're at the sewing machine, I already put in the thread and bobbin that I want to use into mine, and you're going to do or set your machine to straight stitch, and we're going to do that straight stitch that I talked about, 1/4 inch in. So you're going to measure 1/4 inch in. And whenever you're doing a straight stitch, make sure you do a forward stitch and a back stitch to lock your stitch in anytime you start a stitch and end a stitch. For the head strap or shoulder head strap, you want to fold the strap 2 ways. So you want to fold it in here to the center of the fabric, and you want to fold it again on the other side in the center of the fabric. And make sure the 2 edges touch. So I like to press down in the middle and then work my way out. That way it doesn't come unfolded. So I'll fold the middle and I'll iron it a little bit so that the edges I can do after, and hold it down. So again, hold it down a little bit. Use your iron and press down. Then you're going to want to do one more fold. So there's 2 folds here. You're going to want to fold it one more time from the center in. So basically it's 3 folds. 2 on each side, 1 in the middle. Make sure that the edges of the fold are touching. Use your iron and press down. Take the other side and do the same. And you're going to do this with the waist straps as well. So once I've done ironing this one, I'm probably going to do the waist straps right after. Then when I said like it didn't really matter that the fabric was not facing the same direction for me, because once I fold it you don't really see much of that pattern because the strap is so skinny. And this part is not folding correctly, so I'm going to have to hold it down a little bit better. And once that is done, you're going to want to sew a straight stitch on this side and on this side, all the way down, and that will be the shoulder strap. You're going to do the same thing for the waist strap, the same type of fold, the same 2 stitches on the side to create the strap itself. So let's go and do that. So after you're done ironing and folding, you should have 1 long head shoulder strap and 2 waist straps that we are going to sew the same way, both on both ends. So you're going to want to sew a straight stitch on this side and on this side, about a 1/8 of an inch in. So we're going to go to the sewing machine and do that. take your pocket that you sewed and place it in the middle of the fabric. Since we know that our fabric from here to here is 28 inches wide, we're going to make sure that it's centered to 14 inches in the center fold. And move our fabric over a little bit, our square, our pocket. And then from the top, you're going to want to measure, well, depending on where you want the pocket on the chest, I'm going to measure mine at 12 inches from the top, from the neckline. So this is where I'm going to pin my pocket. So we're going to take some pins and pin this in place. What you also want to remember when you are doing the pocket is only going to be on one side of the apron, so you only want to take one apron body piece and pin it to the one apron body piece. So let's go to the sewing machine and sew the pocket on to the one side. So once you're at the sewing machine, you're going to want to position your needle a little bit above your pocket so that part of the apron is where your needle is positioned. And you're going to sew a straight stitch on both sides and the bottom of the pocket, leaving the top part open. You want to make sure that you do a back stitch on the apron to pocket where it meets, just to make sure that the pocket is secure. Pocket is now attached. To get a cleaner pocket, you might want to skip the step of sewing the iron seams. What you might want to do is iron the seams first and then attach it to the apron. I didn't do that, so I'm probably going to stitch over this seam and try to follow it along so that it's a little bit cleaner. Either way works, but it's cleaner if you do it that way. Now that the pocket's sewn on, everything is going to come together. You're going to take all of your pieces and you're going to clip them together on the pocket side of the apron. This is where you're going to use your clips and take your strap, your waist strap, and you're going to want to attach it to the edge of the angle where the 13-inch mark is here. You're going to want to attach one of the straps with a clip. Same thing with the other strap. Make sure they are aligned. And the head strap. So make sure that it is properly set up. You're going to want to align the two edges to the top corners of the apron. Make sure that it's set up correctly and that you're aligning it correctly. Clip it. Same thing with this, and try not to twist the strap, otherwise it won't sit correctly. So it should look something like this, where you have the strap attached and the two straps attached and the pocket there. You're going to take the second apron body piece and you're going to put them wrong sides together. So the print is facing the print on both sides. Match up the bottom and the top together. And everything should be inside of this kind of little burrito type of sewing thing. And with this, you're going to clip every angle of the apron, enough so that it can stay together. So I'm going to clip the bottom, the sides, and everything. Make sure that it lines up. So the clips that you took where the straps are, you're going to want to lift that and slide your top fabric underneath it so everything is clipped together. So I'm doing that with the top strap, the two side straps and the top strap. I'm just slipping the top piece of the apron under the clip. That way it's all clipped together. Okay? And just make sure you have enough clips that everything is lining up correctly, so that when you pick it up off the floor, everything will come together. Maybe I'll put one here just to keep it touched. Okay. So once everything is clipped like this, you're going to want to sew. Ooh. Oh dear. So once everything is clipped, you're going to want to sew all around, 1/4 inch on the sides, angled, top, angle, side. What you're going to do though is at the bottom, I would say leave about a 5 inch to 4 inch gap. This is where we're going to turn our fabric inside out. So you're going to start here, do a straight stitch, 1/4 inch in, forward and back, all the way around, and then back here. And leave a space open for us to fold everything inside out. So that's what we're going to go do on the sewing machine. Everything's sewn and cleaned up. I cut off all the loose threads. I cut the corners a little bit so that when I turn it inside out, the corners will be a lot sharper. So we're gonna turn it inside out now. It looks more like an apron now. Pockets here. Now we're gonna want to clean this up a bit by ironing it first. So we're going to iron the whole thing first, and then we're going to sew 1/8 of an inch around the entire apron to give it a bit of a finishing look. With the hole, you're going to want to make sure that these seams are folded in when you iron it, so when you sew over it, it'll look like it's a clean seam and the sewing will close that hole up. So let's go and do that. Finish this off is the straps, the waist straps. You're going to want to fold the ends of it in once and sew straight along. This is just to close off the fabric. If you want a cleaner edge, you could also fold it twice, but I'm just going to do it once because I don't want it to be too thick. So let's go and do that. one of the biggest issues that you run into when you create a pattern on your own for sewing is that it's a lot of trial and error. And when I say trial and error, there are errors that happen, and there were errors that happen within this tutorial that I will adjust within the template. Depending on your measurements, and height is dependent on the measurements for the apron. So you really have to use your measuring tape on the person that you are creating the apron for. I used my body type. Unfortunately, the neckline was a lot longer than I thought it would be when I measured it. So I measured 30 inches, and then when I put it on, it was too low on my chest area. So I cut the strap and then I resewed it to adjust. I think in the template I'll probably make that neck strap either a tie strap or a shorter strap. But I think the tie one is probably better because you can adjust it however tall that person is, you can adjust it. The side straps are fine. They turned out great. These straps here are good. The pocket, as I said in the video, I probably would have ironed it in and then sewn it on, as opposed to iron it in, sew it, and then resew it. And I found that the pocket is a little bit too low. So in hindsight, I probably would have, from the top of the apron, made the pocket about 8 inches down or 5 inches down, just so it's sitting on the chest as opposed to the stomach area. The good thing about the apron though is because it's double-sided, and if you didn't want the pocket, you could just flip it, turn it inside out, and it's again on the other side it's just the same print but no pocket, so it can be reversible. That's the good thing. So again, trial and error, and that goes with every single sewing project I do. It's not, I mean, I've done patterns before, but I don't do them extensively. I've created my own clothes before, and again, a lot of trial and error. So Jen will be coming over tomorrow. We're gonna measure her, and we're gonna fit the apron to suit her body type. And yeah, that's about it.